The Young and the Restless spoilers, full Saturdays update, March 7th, 2026. Diane and Kyle were very worried. They couldn't figure out the reason or how to break Victor's curse. And then Diane had an idea. What was it? Victor Newman had taken responsibility for Jack's disappearance, a bold, arrogant claim intended to pressure Billy about the Chancellor. But that story didn't make sense to her. It was too perfect, too dramatic, even for Victor. Diane always remembered Jack. Their love for each other was immense, and they understood that separation was impossible and shouldn't be. Jack was exhausted. He had never been tormented, kidnapped for so long, his poor health causing him pain. Diane said Jack needed heart medication, otherwise he would die, but Victor didn't care. Jack was struggling to escape from the room on the boat, but it was difficult because he was so fortified. Her instincts, honed through years of survival and deception, led her to the only place that had recently become a hotbed of chaos, Spectra Charles Media. This newly formed company, born from the ashes of failed mergers and broken alliances, was a center of ambition. And in Genoa, where there is ambition, there is often dirty money. Diane arrived at the office building under the pretext of finding Kyle, though she knew her son was currently at the sports club, drowning his sorrows in scotch. The Spectra Charles hallway was eerily dark, only the cleaning crew of Sign of Life, or at least that's what she thought. As she passed the frosted glass of an office, a voice echoed out, low and urgent. Diane pointed her finger at Audra's face and said, "Tell me the truth and I'll forgive you." "The money needs to be completed tonight," Audra hissed, her footsteps echoing through the doorway. "I don't care about Cayman Islands banking regulations. Just transfer it through the shell company in Malta as we discussed. If the payment is delayed, the whole deal will fall apart." Diane held her breath. A financial transaction? Right now? With Jack missing and the town in chaos? "No," Audra continued, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "He doesn't know, and he won't know. This is insurance. If Abbott's situation worsens, I need that cash. Just get it done." The call ended with the phone being slammed down on the table. Diane's mind reeled. Abbott's situation. Audra had clearly linked a huge urgent cash payment to the chaos surrounding Jack. Was she working for Victor, or was she exploiting the kidnapping for her own gain? Diane waited 2 full minutes before Audra's footsteps faded down the hallway toward the elevator. Once saved, she slipped into the office. The room was faintly scented with expensive perfume and stale coffee. Her eyes scanned the desk. Neat, tidy, empty. Audra was too clever to leave any paperwork behind. But the computer screen was only in sleep mode, not completely off. Diane clicked the mouse. Of course, it was password protected. She bit her lip, looking around. On the edge of the desk, a tablet was charging. She swiped it open. It was also locked, but a message still appeared on the screen. Below was a string of alphanumeric characters that looked like a cryptocurrency wallet address. The amount in the message sent a shiver down Diane's spine. It wasn't just a payment. It was a fortune. Enough to disappear. Enough to fund a private army or kidnapping. She pulled out her phone, snapping a screenshot just as the tablet's auto-lock feature blurred the notification. It wasn't irrefutable evidence. It wasn't a confession either. But it was a clue. And Diane Jenkins knew exactly how to pull a clue until the whole story unraveled. Driving away from the office, she desperately wanted to call Kyle. He deserved to know. He was Jack's son and his anger could be a powerful weapon. But as her thumb glided across his name in her contacts, she hesitated. Kyle was reactive. If he stormed in accusing Audra without concrete evidence, Audra would panic. She would erase the evidence, destroy it, and disappear. Or worse, if she's working with a dangerous third party, Kyle could be harmed. "No," Diane said, tossing the phone onto the passenger seat. "This is mine."
In the long and turbulent history of Genoa City, few relationships have evolved in such a surprising and complicated way as the one between Sharon Newman and Phyllis Summers. For many longtime viewers of The Young and the Restless, their story is a reminder that in a world filled with betrayals, shifting loyalties, and emotional scars that refuse to fade, even the most bitter enemies can sometimes discover an unexpected bond. Their rivalry began more than 2 decades ago, and for years it seemed impossible that the two women would ever find themselves standing on the same side of anything. The origin of that conflict dates back to 2005, when Phyllis crossed a line that permanently altered Sharon's life. In a moment of reckless desire and emotional impulsiveness, Phyllis began an affair with Sharon's husband, Nick Newman. What followed was not simply another romantic scandal in Genoa City, but the birth of a rivalry that would echo through countless confrontations, sharp exchanges, and painful reminders of betrayal. For Sharon, the wound cut deep. Nick had always been the center of her emotional world, and the discovery that Phyllis had become entangled in his life in such a destructive way left scars that refused to heal easily. For years afterward, Sharon and Phyllis circled each other like adversaries forced to occupy the same battlefield. Sometimes the tension between them exploded openly, turning everyday encounters into sharp verbal battles fueled by years of resentment. Other times, the hostility simmered quietly beneath the surface, manifesting as cold politeness that barely concealed the history between them. Much of this ongoing conflict revolved around Nick himself, whose complicated feelings for both women kept the emotional wounds constantly reopening. In Genoa City, where relationships rarely remained stable for long, Sharon and Phyllis became symbols of a rivalry that many fans assumed would never truly end. Yet the most fascinating aspect of their story is how completely that assumption was challenged by events no one could have predicted. Last year, the dynamic between Sharon and Phyllis changed in a way that felt almost surreal to those who had watched their feud for decades. The two women found themselves trapped together in a terrifying situation when they were abducted and held captive by Martin. In that moment, the old grievances that had defined their relationship suddenly became irrelevant. Survival has a way of stripping away the illusions people cling to, revealing what truly matters when fear replaces pride. Inside the walls of that facility, Sharon and Phyllis were no longer rivals fighting over past betrayals. They were two women facing the same danger, forced to rely on each other in order to stay alive. The experience of captivity changed something fundamental between them. The tension and resentment that had once fueled their interactions began to give way to something far more complicated and, perhaps unexpectedly, more human. They shared moments of vulnerability that neither of them had ever allowed the other to see before. In those dark hours of uncertainty, when escape seemed impossible and the threat surrounding them felt overwhelming, Sharon and Phyllis discovered that beneath years of hostility, there was also a shared understanding of pain, loss, and resilience. Working together to survive required trust, and that trust slowly began to replace the bitterness that had defined their relationship for so long. When they were finally rescued, the aftermath of that ordeal left both women profoundly changed. The world outside had not transformed, but their perception of each other had. Instead of returning immediately to their familiar pattern of hostility, Sharon and Phyllis began leaning on one another in small, but meaningful ways. What emerged was not a perfect friendship, but something far more realistic. A fragile alliance built on the memory of surviving something terrifying together. For the first time in years, they were able to see each other not simply as rivals, but as individuals shaped by similar struggles. However, Genoa City is rarely a place where peace lasts for long. Recently, Phyllis has once again found herself at the center of controversy, and the fragile balance she had built with many people in her life has begun to unravel. Her aggressive move to seize control of Newman Enterprises shocked nearly everyone around her. What might have seemed like another bold business maneuver quickly turned into something far more divisive. By targeting a company so closely tied to the powerful Newman family, Phyllis effectively declared war on some of the most influential figures in Genoa City. The consequences of that decision spread quickly, damaging not only her professional relationships, but also her personal life. The situation has become even more painful because Phyllis's actions have strained her relationships with her own children. In the eyes of many people around her, she has once again allowed ambition and pride to overshadow the people who care about her. Old patterns seem to be repeating themselves, reinforcing the reputation she has struggled for years to escape. Friends who once supported her now question whether Phyllis has truly changed, or whether the same impulsive instincts that fueled her past mistakes are once again taking control. Amid all this criticism and disappointment, Sharon's reaction has stood out in a way that few people expected. Instead of joining the growing chorus of voices condemning Phyllis, Sharon has chosen a path that reflects both honesty and compassion. During a recent conversation, she admitted openly that Phyllis's actions had disappointed her. Sharon did not attempt to defend the decision to seize Newman Enterprises, nor did she pretend that the consequences were insignificant. Yet despite that disappointment, she made it clear that she still considered Phyllis a friend. It was a quiet but powerful gesture, especially coming from someone who once had every reason to despise her. That moment revealed how deeply their shared experience had altered the foundation of their relationship. Sharon's willingness to stand by Phyllis, even while acknowledging her mistakes, suggested that their bond had grown stronger than many people realized. It was not blind loyalty, but something more thoughtful, a recognition that people are capable of both failure and growth. Sharon understood better than most how complicated Phyllis could be, but she also recognized the humanity behind those flaws. For fans who have followed their story for years, this evolution has been both surprising and strangely satisfying. Many viewers have embraced the idea of Sharon and Phyllis as unlikely allies, celebrating the possibility that two former enemies could build something meaningful out of years of conflict. Online discussions among longtime fans often reflect that excitement. Some viewers have even affectionately referred to their friendship as Farron, a nickname that captures the unexpected chemistry between the two characters. One fan on a popular soap opera forum recently summed up the feeling shared by many viewers. They wrote that they hoped this friendship would continue because Sharon and Phyllis had proven they could truly be good friends if they allowed themselves the chance. It was a simple comment, but it reflected something deeper about why their story resonates with audiences. In a series filled with betrayals and rivalries, the idea that two bitter enemies could transform their relationship into something supportive offers a rare kind of emotional payoff. Of course, in Genoa City, nothing remains stable forever. Phyllis's current conflict with the Newman family threatens to place Sharon in an uncomfortable position once again. Loyalty, history, and personal values may soon collide in ways that test the strength of their newfound friendship. Yet the fact that Sharon has already chosen compassion once suggests that their bond may be stronger than anyone expected. Whether their friendship will survive the next storm remains uncertain. But for now, the story of Sharon and Phyllis stands as one of the most unexpected transformations in the long and dramatic history of Genoa City.